Hello everyone and welcome back to my almost final review video for Ikoria and Commander 2020. I am Raging Levine and I'm going to be reviewing all the cards in Ikoria and Commander 2020 with an eye toward casual or social Commander. I like my decks around a 5 or 6 on the command zone scale. I tend to shy away from infinite combos or too many tutors. Cards like Demonic Tutor are not usually what I play with. I want to make clear this is not actually the last video. Tomorrow I'm releasing the last video in this series, but this is the last really informative video. There's a bunch of cards that I felt like were kind of snoozers for Commander that I decided not to spend time on today. I'm going to go all over those all tomorrow. I'm going to have a big reaction video to all those cards tomorrow, so definitely check that. It's going to be a good time, but this one's going to be a lot more informative. Let's get started with Farfinder. Keep in mind, we're really just going to be seeing the last of the Ikoria cards today. Commander 2020 we've already finished up, so it's really just the last of the Ikoria cards, and then I'm going to get started on building decks and showing you those for Ikoria stuff. 10-ticket Commander stuff probably is what we will be seeing soon. But let's get started with Farfinder. 3 mana for a 1/1 Fox with Vigilance. This card's colorless, so that's cool. It's not an Eldrazi or anything. It's not an artifact. It's just colorless. When it enters the battlefield, you can search up a basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is definitely intended as a mutate base, a mana fixer. I'd rather start with Pilgrim's Eye with the flying base as opposed to Vigilance, but this probably has a place if you're way into foxes, I guess. Next up, Drannith Healer, 1 and a white for a 2/2 human cleric. Whenever you cycle another card, you gain 1 life, cycling 1. This is a really minor upside. Mostly the card has cycling 1. Next up, Imposing Vantasaur, 5 and a white for a 3/6 dinosaur with Vigilance, cycling 1. Mostly this card has cycling 1. That's what I really care about. Goes in cycling decks. Perimeter Sergeant. Apparently my mouth didn't know how to say that one, but we're just going to keep on rolling. 2 and a white for a 3/2 human soldier. Whenever it attacks, other humans you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. See how I avoided saying the name of that card again there? That's professional broadcasterism, folks. So you're going to want to stack your deck with human generators, just human tokens all over the place. Cards like Increasing Devotion comes to mind, but I'm not super excited about this. This is a little bit fringe. There are a lot better effects like this. Snare Tactician, 2 and a white for a 2/3 human soldier. Whenever you cycle a card, tap target creature an opponent controls. It's a mediocre defensive off-turn cycling option or an offensive one to get your creatures through, but really you're mostly going to be defensive in decks like this. You're not amassing a huge ground force. This is not Astral Slide. It's not Astral Drift. It's not great, but it might find a place if you are short on playables in your deck, I guess. Solid Footing, white mana, enchantment aura, flash, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and as long as it has Vigilance, it assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than power. So what we have here is an instant speed Doran Clause for a single creature, but only if it has Vigilance. This is too conditional to be impressive. Next up, Frostveil Ambush. 3 blue for an instant, tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Now we get to the real part of the card, cycling 1. That's the best part of the card. That's the part I care about. Gust of Wind. Ooh, this is a Pokemon day, because that is a Pokemon card. 3 and a blue for a sorcery, costs 2 less to cast if you control your creature with flying. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, draw a card. So this could be playable in the Flying Matters deck. Bounce any non-land and draw for 1 and a blue. The only problem is it's not an instant. Being a sorcerer really kind of tanks this card. Makes this more of a limited card than something we want to play in Commander, unfortunately. Mystic Subdual, 1 and a blue. It's an aura with flash. Enchant creature gets -2/-0 and loses all abilities. So an instant speed ability cleanser could be useful in this world of huge mutants, but I'd rather play something like Reality Shift. If I can target the creature, then I'd rather exile it pretty much all the time. I guess you could put this at instant speed on something like a God Eternal, Kefnet, but I think that's too narrow to really consider an inclusion. Of One Mind, 2 and a blue for a sorcery, costs 2 less to cast if you control a human creature and a non-human creature. Draw 2 cards. So just a blue for divination is really great. You need to make sure you consistently have the creatures to make this happen in order for it to be good. Something like Whirler Rogue can make this happen all by itself. Murmuring Mystic can do the same if you're playing cards like those. If you're in a blue token theme and you've got humans that make tokens and the tokens aren't humans, definitely consider Of One Mind. Startling development, 1 in a blue, instant. Until end of turn, target creature becomes a blue serpent with base power and toughness 4/4. Cycling 1. Did I mention Cycling 1? It's got Cycling 1, and that's the part of the card I care about. Corpse Churn, 1 in a black for an instant. Ooh, like this already. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So instant speed Raise Dead that also mills you. Very much similar to Ransack the Lab, but you get a Raise Dead on any creature instead of putting one of the top 3 into your hand. Possibility for decks that want to fill the graveyard. Something like Nethroi could be really interested in Corpse Churn. You mill yourself. You get a Mutator back. Or a nice mutate base for Nethroi, and you dump some other creatures in the graveyard for Nethroi to bring back with its ability. Serrated Scorpion, 1/2 for a black mana. It's a Scorpion. Makes sense. When it dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. If you're going full Aristocrats and also bringing back cheap creatures, you want to try this Scorpion out. You're already offsetting the life loss from Phyrexian Reclamation with the Scorpion's trigger alone, and with your Aristocrats creatures, you should be gaining even more life. I think recycling this over and over again is going to be a very profitable part of the Aristocrats engine going forward. Blister Spit Gremlin, a red for a 1/1 Gremlin. 1 and tap, deals 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap Blister Spit Gremlin. I love the flavor text. We have a critic. This is very cute. Bad Thermo Alchemist is still a Thermo Alchemist if you have extra mana to spend in the late game. It's a nice mana sink if you are going off casting a lot of non-creature spells in some of these Jeskai decks. I don't love it, but it could be good. Raking Claws, 1 in a red. Instant, target creature gains double strike until end of turn, cycling 2. Double strike at instant speed with a cycling ability when that's not a useful thing that you want. Could theoretically be playable in a deck that wants cards like Double Cleave already. I admit this is on the low end of playable. I just like cards like this that are explosive when they work and cycle when they don't. Reptilian Reflection, 2 in a red for an enchantment. Whenever you cycle a card, you may have this become a 5/4 dinosaur creature with trample and haste in addition to its other types until end of turn. So you can get this going the first turn it's out. You can play it, cycle something for 1 on turn 4 or turn 3 if you did some ramping, and get going with your 5/4 dinosaur. It reminds me of Answered Prayers, except this looks more like a legitimate threat for its price. I like Reptilian Reflection. I'm definitely going to try it out in some cycling-focused decks to help put some pressure on people in the early to mid-game. Excavation Mole. Wow, this sounds like a medical procedure or just like a YouTube channel I really don't want to watch. 2 and a green for a 3/3 mole with trample. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. So this is another solid way to fill the graveyard for Nethroi, and almost as importantly, you provide a mutate base for it that gives it trample to go along with its inherent death touch and lifelink. I think Nethroi is the perfect place for Excavation Mole, and I'm absolutely going to be slotting it in when the time comes to build a Nethroi deck. Ram Through, 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. So I like these trampling spells. This basically, it's a fun take on Nature's Way. It sort of feels like a Hearthstone attack that lets you keep the trample rules from Magic, And I think that's kind of cool. It's another option for green spot removal if you're packing a lot of big creatures and you want to have ways in mono green to deal with opposing creatures. Ram Through could be an option alongside cards like Nature's Way and the many fight effects that are available. Survivor's Bond, 1 and a green for a sorcery. Choose one or both. Return target human creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or the same for non-human creature card. As long as you're putting in energy into milling yourself, this could be divination-y for 2 mana. I am required by law to mention that this loops with Eternal Witness, so you can just get back a non-human alongside Eternal Witness, recast Eternal Witness, bring back Survivor's Bond, and keep doing that as long as you sacrifice your Eternal Witness. That's cool, I guess. This card seems fairly medium otherwise. Sleeper Dart, 2 colorless mana for an artifact. When it enters, draw a card, tap, sacrifice Sleeper Dart. Target creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Now, you may be wondering, why do I care about this very mediocre card? Well, it draws a card when it enters the battlefield, and commanders like Alayla, any other decks, Psy, Master Thopterist, that want to play artifacts and then just continue to refill the hand with more and more to keep generating triggers, are going to want cards like Sleeper Dart. Regardless of their marginal effect that they have when they're on the battlefield, it's important for them to enter the battlefield, draw, and then potentially get put into the graveyard to be reused later. Vulpikeet. 3 and a white for a 2/3 fox bird. Mutate 2 and a white. It's got flying, and whenever it mutates, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This looks like a mediocre mutate creature, but cheap ways to trigger the when this mutates effect on powerful mutate commanders are likely to be in fashion. I keep talking about Nethroi, and I'm going to keep talking about Nethroi because I think it's very exciting that cards like Nethroi exist for cards like Vulpikeet to be good with. Regal Leosaur, red-white for a 2/2 dinosaur cat, mutate 1 and 2 red-white hybrid. Whenever this creature mutates, other creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. That's kind of cool, right? Except that it's not really rewarding you for going big on mutate. You want to go wide with this, and this is less about stacking mutates and more about going wide before generating an inspired charge, which I'm not particularly inspired by. This does not look like a great commander card to me. Next up, we have the Triomes. There are 5 of these. These are the 5 rare lands. There's other rare lands, but these are the 5 rare mana-fixing lands from Ikoria. There's one of each in the 5 different Triomes, which are the 5 wedges that you might know from Khans of Tarkir. But the Triomes have really cool names. These extended art versions are absolutely beautiful, and I'm going to be doing my best to get just a bunch of these for all of my various 3-color commander decks. They are fetchable because they're all land type, so this one is a plains, swamp, forest. We've got them in a few flavors here, so all 5 of the wedges get these Triumph cards. They're tri-lands, they enter tapped, they're fetchable, they have the land types, and if that's not good enough for you, they have cycling 3 in case you draw them in the late game and don't need them anymore. These are commander staples now. This is the world we live in. These cards are incredible for commander. If you get these, hang on to them. They are amazing. We're not going to see a card like this for a while, is my guess. So pick these up as much as you can. I mean, at least that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be picking up tons of these. So I can't... These are amazing. These are incredible. The art is beautiful. Even on the regular versions, the art is beautiful. But on these extended art versions, it's absolutely unreal, this art. The cards are amazing. I love them. I love them so much. They're so good. Next up, Mythos of Illuna. 2 blue for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target permanent. If a red and green were spent to cast a spell, instead create a token that's a copy of that permanent, except the token has, when this enters the battlefield, if it's a creature, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. That's a lot of words. This card's amazing. You get a copy. If you paid the full teamer structure for it, the copy also fights something if it's a creature. You even get enter the battlefield effects from the permanent like you normally would. It's any permanent. So if you're not taking advantage of the fight, you're copying something like the Immortal Sun, Guardian Project, Smothering Tithe. These cards I talk about all the time that do a really good job of killing you when your opponents have them. Now you have one too. And if it is a creature that you're taking, you get to fight something and just blast something else. You don't always have to spend the full teamer for something to fight. You might just want to copy somebody else's permanent and get, like, you know, a Rite of Replication type effect. That's fine. This card goes in any value-focused teamer deck. This card is an incredible commander card, and I can't wait to see it just all over the place. Hunted Nightmare, 1 black for a 4/5 Nightmare with Menace. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent puts a death touch counter on a creature they control. So an interesting spin on the old hunted creature cycle. Cards like Hunted Dragon would give you, you know, some knights that are chasing the dragon down or whatever. I think Hunted Nightmare is cool because you can give the death touch counter to somebody who's behind on board, and then use your undercosted threat to beat down someone else or hit some planeswalkers. This card doesn't have a lot of synergy. It doesn't have a good creature type. I don't see necessarily where this fits, but it is well costed, and in a multiplayer format, the drawback is workable. Unpredictable Cyclone. What a weird card already. 3 red for an enchantment with cycling 2. If a cycling ability of another non-land card would cause you to draw a card, instead of drawing from a cycling, here's what you do. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a card that shares a type with the cycled card. Okay, so Possibility Storm. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Okay, so that's why it's non-land, so you can cycle lands and draw cards normally. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. This card is weird and wild and subverts the whole point of cycling, except that you get to cast stuff for free. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of those Cycling 1 cards that you want to play in cycling decks just because they have Cycling 1 and makes them a lot worse. So that kind of stinks. I'm going to try it out, but you're going to have to build your cycling deck in a totally new way to include Unpredictable Cyclone in a way that makes sense. Maybe it's fine to just get like a 3/6 or whatever when you cycle a creature. Maybe that's good enough for... I don't know. I'm going to have to try it. I'm going to have to try it out and see if this card's any good. We might just be making our cycling decks worse by including Unpredictable Cyclone. It might be fun. It might not be fun. I haven't figured it out yet. We're going to play it. Genesis Ultimatum. Green, blue, red for a sorcery. Look at your top 5 cards. Put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand. Exile Genesis Ultimatum. Cards like Genesis Wave and Kamal's Druidic Vow do not make Genesis Ultimatum look particularly good. The fact that you draw the rest is kind of cool, but I think usually people who want this effect just want to win the game, and for 7 mana, this is not always going to do that. So, Genesis Ultimatum is maybe a friendlier version of those cards, a version that you're probably going to be less tired of, but it's also not as powerful. It's hard to navigate muddy waters of casual social commander sometimes, but I think Genesis Ultimatum might be a fun alternative to those cards, and that's kind of cool. Inspired Ultimatum. Blue, red, white, sorcery. Target player gains 5 life. Inspired Ultimatum deals 5 damage to any target, then you draw 5 cards. So this is largely a draw 5 at sorcery speed with some mild to medium side effects. If you can copy this spell, I think it's great. But just casting this for 7 mana, you're getting a draw 5 at sorcery speed. You're probably not doing anything else with your turn. I don't know how I feel about this card. It's not... This feels like a constructed top end for like a tap-out Jeskai control deck more than it feels like a commander card to me. And that's weird to say about an ultimatum. Kinnan Bodender Prodigy. Green-blue for a 2/2 legendary human druid. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. And then 5, a blue and a green. Look at your top 5. You may put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Rest go on the bottom at random. So many infinite loops with this card. Basalt Monolith immediately springs to mind. Tap it for 4, untap it for 3. Just keep going. I would probably play this in a deck focused on creatures that generate mana, try to do what it's telling me to do, rather than go off with combo nonsense, well, that is also kind of what it's telling you to do. But you pack a lot of mana-generating creatures, your Birds of Paradise and so on, your non-human mana-generating creatures, and then you pack some counter magic to defend from wraths, you put a lot of creatures on the battlefield, and then you Stroke of Genius your opponent for 97,000. It could be kind of fun. I don't know. I definitely want to build a deck with Kinnan Bodender Prodigy that doesn't go infinite just to see if I can actually manage to do that. Ruinous Ultimatum. Red, white, black, sorcery. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. Oh, this is going to end a lot of games. And that's good. It's good that it'll end games. We want games to end. But this does underscore the importance of negates and other ways to protect your own board, giving your creatures indestructible. Weirdly, those are the blue and white free spells in Commander 2020, so pick those up. They're really good, both of them. But Ruinous Ultimatum is so powerful. Gives the Mardu deck some end game, but it's gonna, you're gonna cast this, and it's gonna get negated sometimes, like with any big spell like this, and you're gonna go, all right, go ahead. And you're still going to lose the game. So keep that in mind. Card's still very powerful. Slither Wisp. Blue, black, black for a 3/2 Elemental Nightmare with Flash. Whenever you cast another spell that has Flash, you draw a card and each opponent loses 1 life. So, it's important to remember that Teferi Mage of Zalfir is the only real way to give your cards Flash. Other similar effects don't give them Flash, they let you play them as though they had Flash. Sorry, Tidal Barracuda, you're not a combo with Slitherwisp. I don't think Flash is quite a big enough thing yet. Maybe it is, but maybe you could assemble a blue-black deck with enough Flash synergies, but who's even the commander? I think you want to revisit this card in a few years. Maybe then it'll be in the place it wants to be. Titan's Nest, 1, a black, a green, and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at your top card. You may put it into your graveyard. Exile a card from your graveyard, add a colorless mana. Spend this mana only to cast a colored spell without Xing its mana cost. So as all of Twitter has probably already said, oh good, Delve. That wasn't already powerful. Sidisi Brood Tyrant just got a lot of discounts on its commander tax. This is going to speed up Lab Maniac wins in casual. This is just looks like an aggressive combo card. Obviously, you can't go off full Blue Sun Zenith mode with this, but it's still very powerful. Going to do a lot of graveyard shenanigans. Turning your graveyard into mana seems absolutely crazy. Whirlwind of Thought, 1, a blue, a red, and a white. Enchantment, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. This is everything a Jeskai Spells deck wants. My first thoughts are something like Savine, many cantrips, some wraths, and a few heavy-hitting, game-winning spells, some token generation, some flashback stuff. Speaking of token generation, Kikar also makes sense because your non-creatures will automatically generate spirits of Kikars in play, and you can sack them for more mana, cast more spells, just keep the engine going. Vadrok is also a possibility. There are tons of ways to go off with Whirlwind of Thought. If you're playing any Jeskai commander that's spell-focused, which is like half of them, honestly, Whirlwind of Thought's going to be insane. This card's crazy. Winota, Joiner of Forces, 2, a red and a white, for a 4/4 legendary human warrior. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Cool. Ooh, I like this. So, balancing humans and non-humans in your deck is going to be tough, but rewarding. This card's a huge flavor win, obviously. You want to have non-humans ideally with haste, humans ideally with powerful enters the battlefield abilities. Okay, wait, hang on. So if you play Geist Honored Monk, right, you got your human, and then you got your 2 spirit tokens. Next turn you attack with the 2 spirit tokens, you get 2 Winota triggers. Maybe all of you have a bunch of token generation. You make a bunch of non-human tokens. Then you have all your creature cards are humans, right? So if you have, I pre-did some math here. If you have 20 humans in your 99, you have a 75% chance to hit at least 1 human in your top 6, assuming all the cards are in there, which obviously they're not, but math is math. 23 humans bumps you to 80%. And I think that's kind of the starting line here. At least 23 humans in a Winota deck so that you're reliably hitting off of these triggers. Obviously, the more you trigger, the less you're going to hit because you're going to spin through the rest of the deck. Some way to get creature cards back from your graveyard to your library might be useful. Winota seems really cool. Obviously, very vulnerable to removal. If you get your Winota blown up, you're going to have a bad time maybe with the deck that you've built. So keep that in mind as you move forward. Next up, Kahira the Orphan Guard, 1 and 2 green-white hybrid for a 3/2 legendary cat beast companion. Each creature card in your starting deck is a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast card. Vigilance. Each other creature you control that's a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. It's adorable. I don't think the deck of many misfits is going to be powerful or feel super cohesive. I'd rather play this as a companion to something like Arabo Roar of the world and just say, okay, I'm all in on cats and Kahira is my companion, and we're just going to go for it on that axis. Yorion Sky Nomad, 3 and 2 white-blue hybrid mana for a 4/5 legendary creature, Bird Serpent companion. Your starting deck contains at least 20 cards, more than the minimum deck size. Well, I guess in Bird Serpent world, the rules of Commander are just a suggestion, so we won't be using this as a companion in Commander. but it's got flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile any number of non-land permanents, other non-land permanents specifically, that you control and own. Return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So, you can make this your commander. Blinking this slow blinks your board, which might make this competitive with Brago for the blink commander slot. It doesn't reset your mana to be reused, but you're going to get a lot of ETB effects, and you just cast your momentary blinks and your ghostly flickers and so on cards like this. Yorion looking pretty powerful here. I think this card's sweet. I'm excited to try this out as the Mega Blink commander and just get a ton of value out of it. Zerda, the Dawn Waker. This sounds like a product. Like an advertisement. Consider Zerda, the Dawn Waker, for all of your alarm clock needs? I don't know what Zerda would make. Anyway, 1 and 2 red-white hybrid mana for a 3/3 legendary elemental fox. Companion, each permanent card in your starting deck has an activated ability. Okay, maybe, I guess, but probably a commander instead. Activated abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana cost in that cost to less than 1 mana. 1 tap, target creature can't block this turn. So it lets you play it in the deck that you're using it with just by having that ability. So I'd run this in the commander slot. Once again, Basalt Monolith goes infinite. Grim Monolith goes infinite. Hooray! Great. Thinking more along the fair lines, an equipment theme seems medium. Maybe there's like a hodgepodge activated ability theme you could do. Bludgeon Brawl could be really silly. I don't know. I haven't really figured out what the Zerda deck looks like, but I'm convinced there's something in there. The equipment deck just doesn't sound that interesting to me here. Bonder's Enclave. It's a land. Tap to add a colorless, or pay 3 and tap to draw a card. Activate this only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. So we've got repeatable card draw for anybody who's feeling ferocious. Please keep in mind that there are currently 403 eligible commanders with power 4 or greater. Just saying. Bonder's Enclave probably goes in many of those decks. Sometimes 5 color or 3 color even is going to make it harder to justify playing yet another colorless land. But in 2 color decks, definitely worth considering. Porcuparrot is our last card of the day. 3 and a red for a 3/4 bird beast with mutate 2 and a red. Tap to deal X damage to any target where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. So the bigger the stack, the bigger the zap. This card is silly and fun and rewards you for making the bad mutate decision that you want to make by just stacking a bunch of cards onto your mutate commander. Looks fun, might not be good. You probably want to be attacking with your big ball of stats and abilities, so I'm not sure this is what we're looking for, but could be cool. Alrighty, folks, that is it for this video. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm going to be doing a reaction video for all the cards remaining in Ikoria that I haven't actually reviewed. Keep your eyes out for that one. I recorded it earlier today. It's a really fun video, and I think you're really going to like it. Please press all the good buttons. Tell your friends about this channel. Subscribe, like, share, mutate, do whatever it is you do on the internet. And I'll see you tomorrow with another video that I already told you about. Bye!